can revoke press access to reporters who ask anyone in the department for information, classified or otherwise, that Hegseth has not approved for release. The list of news outlets include the New York Times, Associated Press, and Newsmax. There's a guilty plea in the firebombing of the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania last April. Fox's Jeff Manasso reports.
38-year-old Cody Balmer entering guilty pleas to dozens of counts, including attempted murder, arson, and terrorism in the attack this spring on the Pennsylvania governor's residence that did millions of dollars in damage and threatened the lives of Governor Josh Shapiro and his family.
I think we need real accountability for acts of political violence. And today is real accountability.
Balmer told police he planned to beat Shapiro with a small sledgehammer after breaking into the building. He's now sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison.
The head of a government watchdog group says the favorite to win New York's mayoral race has close ties with the government of Qatar, which once gave sanctuary to one of the most notorious terrorists. AFN's Chad Groening has this story.
The New York mayoral election is now 3 weeks away, and polls continue to show self-professed Democrat socialist Zoran Mamdani as the likely winner. Now, Peter Schweitzer, who is president of the Government Accountability Institute, is revealing that the family of Mamdani is, quote, joined at the hip with the Qatari royal family. During an appearance on Life, Liberty, and Levin on the Fox News channel, he revealed that in 1996, the Qatari government gave sanctuary to 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
It was there that he started planning the 9/11 attacks. The FBI was looking for him because he had been involved in the 1993 World Trade Center attack, as well as other terrorist attacks. So the FBI went to the royal family and said, we want this man for his involvement in terrorism. What did the family do? They hid him and helped him to escape. They tipped him off.
Schweitzer says that same royal family is now supporting Mamdani.
You have this bizarre situation where a political candidate in New York speaks the language of jihad, is financially connected to the family that helped the 9/11 plotters get away so they could bring down the Twin Towers. And it would be a tragedy if the Qataris would see occupants of City Hall when they were the same people that were involved in what happened in 9/11 and bringing down the Twin Towers.
I'm Chad Groening.
Female volleyball players at a California junior college have had enough. They filed a federal complaint against the school for allowing a male player on the team. Here's AFN's Bob Kellogg.
A male on the Santa Rosa Junior College team reportedly plays with them and uses the female locker room. Sophia Laurie of the California Family Council reports 3 of the girls have had enough and have filed a Title IX complaint against the school.
They don't like having a male on their team. They think it's unfair and unsafe. The coach really offered them no help. It led to all of the girls actually being benched, losing their starting spots, and the girls decided no more.
Laurie says the coach and the athletic director have dismissed their complaints. However, with the Trump administration, they believe they have a chance.
And what it's going to take with the new administration that is on our side, that is wanting to hear from the girls, is it's going to take people up and down the state of California who are being affected by issues as such to file these Title IX complaints. We need to overload the Trump administration with Title IX complaints so they can really see how many girls are struggling.
CFC reports there have been several injuries during practice and games, including a concussion reportedly caused by the male teammate. I'm Bob Kellogg.
In final news, leaves are not the only things falling. Gas prices are down 10 cents in the last month. Today's national average for a gallon of regular, $3.07. Find more news on AFN.net.
Some Christians wonder if boycotting businesses is really biblical, and that's a fair question. Ed Vitagliano and M.D. Perkins address that subject in depth in the AFA Cultural Institute video, Stewardship in Action, The Power of the Boycott. They share the purpose of boycotts and show how they can impact the culture. We're giving that DVD to you free as our thanks for supporting AFA this month. Go to afa.net today for more details. afa.net.
We inform.
Religious freedom is about people of faith being able to live out their faith, live out their convictions, no matter where they are.
We equip.
Sacred honor is the courage to speak truth, to live out your free speech.
we also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome to At the Core with Walker Wildmon and Rick Green. I'm Rick Green, America's Constitution Coach. Great to be back in studio live. Man, seems like it's been a month. I know it hadn't been that long, but it feels like it. And just a lot of travel lately. And, of course, then our special week last week. And thank you to everybody that is contributing and making it possible for us to bring you these truths. To literally disciple. I mean, that's what we do every day here on American Family Radio. And every program, we're essentially discipling on what it means to apply the Bible to our daily lives in every single area, whether we're talking our marriages and how we raise our kids to how we organize our neighborhoods and our communities and our country. And, of course, that means what kind of laws we pass. And all of these things have a biblical position that is right and a worldly position that is wrong. And it's our job to figure out what that is and then support the biblical position. And so that takes us into all kinds of political discussions. But let's start first, the two big news items of the day. Of course, yesterday, just a glorious, glorious day with the hostages being returned. I spent half the night bawling my eyes out watching videos of the reunions, just so powerful, but also infuriating that they had to endure 2 years separated and wondering if they would survive, and so many of their friends and others killed. And so as joyful as I am and as thankful as I am for President Trump being definitely the greatest negotiator of all time, and moved now into my top 3 as president. Yes, it's official. He has surpassed Calvin Coolidge. Okay. Despite all that, and still thankful for all of that, but I have not in any way, shape, or form lost my righteous anger at the evil that would have created this situation in the first place, and therefore it's my wish and prayer that that Israel is somehow, some way, through whatever circumstances develop, able to finish the job and wipe Hamas completely off the face of the planet and take over all of that area. The only way the Palestinians are ever going to experience peace and prosperity and freedom and all of the things that we should want for all of our fellow men is for Israel to govern that area. And just like in the current state of Israel, Arabs, Christians, Jews, whatever your nationality, your background, your religion, you get to experience freedom. And it may not be exactly what we have here in the United States, but it's the closest thing anywhere in that region for sure, and has been good for the people of Israel, again, regardless of Arab, Christian, Jewish, doesn't matter. It is always true that the biblical principles of liberty, when applied to a community, to a state, to a nation, produce good results because they're lined up with the laws of nature and nature's God. So anyway, enough about all that. I would just say thank you, President Trump. Thank you, God, of course, for all of the miraculous things that had to happen for even 20 of these remaining hostages to still be alive and to be reunited with their families. But let's not forget the 1,200 murdered on October 7th, and the others that were savagely beaten and raped and killed and tortured for such an extended period of time. None of that is forgotten or forgiven. It's not the job of the state to forgive. Yes, we're supposed to forgive our enemies, but it's not the job of the state to forgive. It's not the job of our governments to forgive. It's the job of our governments to bear the sword, not in vain, but with purpose. And so this is not over. I think we'll see essentially a repeat of Munich, where in 1972, of course, the radical Islamists and others that teamed up to kill the Jewish athletes and Olympians and kidnap and all the things that happened. A movie made about it back in, I think, 2004 with Eric, I don't know if he says it, Banya, but about Golda Meir and the plan to hunt down and kill those that were responsible for that. I would not be surprised at all if you see something very similar to that following the ceasefire itself. But alas, it is not my job to make those calls. Thankfully, President Donald Trump is in the White House and making the decisions for what America's position at least will be on these things, and miraculously was able to pull together a coalition to put the pressure on these countries that would then put the pressure on Hamas. And I think it's true that Marco Rubio is probably the greatest Secretary of State, as Donald Trump said, that we've certainly seen in our lifetime, maybe in the history of the U.S. I don't know. There was pretty good ones early on. But masterful job in pulling this whole thing together. And what a reminder of what happens when you have someone with moral clarity and discernment, essentially a man of Issachar that understands the times and knows what to do, and is able to tell immediately who the good guys and the bad guys are, and is willing to act on that. You know, President Trump came into office in 2017, elected in 2016, but came into office in January 2017, and immediately figured out, why in the world are we giving, I think at the time it was 140, maybe $180 million to the Palestinian Authority, and they were using it to blow up Jews, to kill Jews. And he's like, well, this is dumb. What in the world are we doing funding terrorism? And stopped it. And so he's just always had that moral clarity that is, not something I expected from him. But he's got it. And then he uses the power that he's been given. This Republican wimpiness of the past 50 years, where every time we'd win an election, we'd apologize for winning practically and do everything we could to make the other side happy, instead of using the power that the people elected us to have. Donald Trump has changed that game big time. And in the last 10 months, not even a full 10 months at this point, he has absolutely used that power in good ways. I mean, 99%. I mean, I have to really reach to look at some of the things that I would disagree that he's done. I actually would have let Israel finish the job before cashing in all these chits and getting the peace deal done. But other little things. But 99%, just amazing what he has used the power to do. And I think we're going to have to stay in that mode. We have to somewhat channel what Trump has done at the federal level into our local communities and our state legislatures, and take advantage of the wind at our back. The other major news of the day that is the reason we have the wind at our back, it's National Remembrance of Charlie Kirk Day on his birthday, what would have been his 32nd, and President Trump will be giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom presenting it to Erica Kirk for Charlie, and that's this afternoon, I believe, at 4:30 Eastern. So here in just a couple hours. By the way, the pace this man keeps, I couldn't do it. Everybody's always asking me, how do you do it, man? How do you travel so much? How do you do these different radio programs and TV shows and write books and run the Patriot Academy and all da-da-da-da-da-da? And I'm always like, caffeine and the Holy Spirit, man. That's the way I get through it. I couldn't hold a candle to what Donald Trump does. This guy does not sleep. It's ridiculous what he's able to accomplish, and what a contrast to sleepy Joe Biden. Wow, what a contrast. But at any rate, I mean, literally flying all night and getting back and meeting with Milei today from Argentina. Hopefully, the model of government around the world for the future. This guy has done very much like Donald Trump, used the power that he was given. I mean, immediately when he got in office, slashing departments, slashing things, really just doing a phenomenal job. And I love seeing those two together. I think, man, if only Bolsonaro was still president in Brazil and able to continue reforms there, those three would be similar to, it'd be kind of like the, who was it? It was President Reagan and Margaret Thatcher and Pope John Paul II that were the kind of the trifecta that defeated communism, right? They just were inseparable on the calling out of evil and standing against communism until it was finally defeated. I think Donald Trump and Milei could use a third person. Maybe this Italian prime minister. She's got some guts, and she's been taking some really good stands. But anyway, I'm praying that Milei is the model, and that there's more and more of that happens all over the country. So I'm glad he's at the White House today. So those were the three main headlines today that I wanted to hit. I want to really talk about, and I'd love to hear from you. So if you want to call in today, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840 is the phone number, and we can talk about whatever you want, any topics on the table. And you might have a comment about something we covered in the last few weeks, or that's happened that I forgot to cover or just didn't have time to cover. Maybe you got some questions about some of these things that are going on in application of the Constitution, and maybe you just got an insult for me. So I always say, comments, questions, insults, whatever you got, bring it my way. more than willing to hear you out. We did the same thing on campus last week. We had a big open house at the Patriot Academy campus. We're becoming Constitution City, and we begun facing a lot of opposition that really came out of the woodwork a week before they assassinated Charlie. They started calling us Nazis and fascists and said we should die and all these crazy things. And so we started facing a lot of this opposition. So we decided to really go on a public relations campaign, if you will. William Wilberforce called it a sustained campaign of public persuasion. My buddy Lance Wallnow always reminds me of that. And that's what we've decided to do as Patriot Academy in our communities. And so we're all over the place, talking about what we're doing, but we're also doing these open houses. And I enjoy opening the floor to any question. I think I've always done that. Even back when I was a state rep, that was my favorite part of doing town halls or receptions at people's homes. I'd have my little canned speech and all that. I'd talk about what I was passionate about, but I loved Q&A. I loved just opening it up to whatever people wanted to discuss. And so we did that at an open house last week. It was great, man. We had a packed house. It was full. We had to cut off registration, and lots of great questions, some challenging, people that genuinely wanted to know what we're about, what we're doing. It was great. And so that's kind of the way I like to conduct this radio program too. I just open floor, whatever you want to talk about. I do tend to rant a little bit and go off on whatever's on my mind and in the news for the first couple of segments, and try to save the last segment for phone calls. But today we'll try to do both the second and third segments with phone calls, if you would like. Plenty of other things I'd love to talk about. I definitely want to hit some of the local efforts that I'm hoping people across the country will do as part of our Rebuilding Liberty in the 250th effort. We want to restore property rights at the local level. We want to get government out of our kitchen, our living room, off of our property, and stop allowing government to micromanage our lives and tell us what we can do with our property. And this morning, man, I testified at the Commissioner's Court. I'm going out there now every other week and just talking about Patriot Academy and sharing a few biblical principles of liberty, trying to educate the community, and all of us, need to be sharpened. And so I like the opportunity to jump in there. And I could not believe the dog and pony show they had justifying this dark sky ordinance baloney that got passed here in Texas. Unbelievable to me that in the state of Texas, a Marxist idea, they literally call it light justice. It's complete Marxism, and it's all about controlling your neighbors and where they can put their lights, how much a business can light up their parking lot to try to stop crime. Are you kidding me? And this goofball at the county commissioner's court today, dressed up as a wizard, talking about how important night skies were and all this, literally valued a night sky over safety. Just insane. And the more the guy talked, he literally showed maps of countries in Africa and other places where, there aren't a bunch of lights. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy needs to go live without running water and without electricity and with all the disease and everything else that comes from not having progress, and then come back and tell us that we don't need to light up our parking lots so that people don't get raped and mugged in our parking lots. Anyway, I couldn't hold back. I ranted at Commissioner's Court on that instead of Patriot Academy. I planned to talk about Patriot Academy and some of the things we're doing, but man, we got to start speaking up against this insanity that it's pure Marxism, and it has seeped into every part of our government, local, county, state, federal. This mindset that government's going to save you, this safetyism that we're going to somehow not be harmed by our neighbor if government just becomes big enough and bad enough and mean enough and has enough regulations. It is so wrong, folks. And it is the mistake that so many countries made. When they bought into safetyism, they grew government and freedom died. And we are on the way to that. Trump has helped a lot at the federal level, and he's saying a lot of the same things I've been saying for 25 years regarding these things, and he's pushing back on a lot of these regulations. So that's good. But it's not enough. We got to do it at the local level, the state level. We got to take our property back, take our freedom back. Okay, quick break. 888-589-8840 is the phone number. 888-589-8840. You're listening to At the Core with Walker Wildmon every week.
Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her. My name is Abraham Hamilton III, and this is the Hamilton Minute. After Jesus resurrected their brother, Lazarus, Martha and Mary hosted a dinner party in their Bethany home. You can imagine the excitement and the buzz that swirled through the town and the number of people who came because the rabbi had returned. Martha busied herself with preparations. Mary sat at Jesus' feet, basking in his teaching. Life's demands can easily consume our focus, but one thing is necessary, that we remain at Jesus' feet, anchored in his word.
Listen each weekday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central for the Hamilton Corner with Abraham Hamilton III, Public Policy Analyst for the American Family Association.
What if healthcare could be more than bills and bureaucracy? What if it could reflect faith, foster community, and offer spiritual support? At Redeem Health Share Ministry, the mission goes beyond medical bills. It's about honoring Christ and embracing healthcare that aligns with Christian values. Redeem members share medical expenses through monthly contributions, supporting one another in a Christ-centered community. It's not insurance, it's believers helping believers through financial support and prayer. And Redeem Health Share provides freedom for members to select the doctors, hospitals, and treatments that are right for them. No networks, no restrictions, just faith-driven care. From everyday checkups to unexpected medical emergencies, Redeem offers flexible programs and encouragement rooted in Scripture. Because your health care should reflect your faith, not compromise it. More at redeemhealthshare.org.
Hey, my name is Wesley Wildmon.
And I'm Walker Wildmon.
And we're brothers, and our family have been leading tours to the land of the Bible for more than 30 years.
Coming up in March of 2026, we would love for you to join us for something very special, a Footsteps of Paul tour, a journey through Greece.
We'll walk exactly where the Apostle Paul walked, through Athens, ancient Corinth, Philippi, and Thessalonica.
You'll enjoy unforgettable experiences and meaningful fellowship with believers and with Wesley and Walker.
And we'll eat well, laugh a lot, and yes, eat well again. And most importantly, we will grow in our faith as the Bible comes alive before your eyes. You'll get to see the very things that we read about or that your pastor talks about in church.
The Footsteps of Paul tour is March 17th through the 24th, 2026.
Register today at wildmangroup.com.
That's wildmangroup.com. We can't wait to see you there.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Rick Green.
Welcome back to At the Core with Walker Wildmon and Rick Green. I'm Rick Green, America's Constitution Coach, with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Walker's got you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and all 5 days. You can call 888-589-8840 if you would like to be a part of the program. That's 888-589-8840, and we're going to go to the phones right away. I'm going to try to do as much of that as I can today. Let's go to Mike in Nebraska. Mike, you are up first. What's your comment, question, insult? Good stuff. Oh, wait, my application closed, guys, on the call screener. If you could connect Mike, I'll reconnect. All right, let's try it. Mike, you there?
All right, can you hear me?
I got you. Go for it.
All right, okay. No, I don't have any insults for you. But my wife is a Constitution coach, and
excellent.
She's biblical citizenship, and she's taught some of the classes around here. And you know, I've kind of looked over and listened over her shoulder while she was going through the courses, and I was just thinking. I actually have two questions, but if you wanted to expand, maybe on like working a deal with AFR and maybe Flashpoint, because we watch it on Flashpoint too, the Flashpoint Network, to make your courses available, videos online. I think that would be a good way for you guys to make a deal, and expand and get the truth about the Constitution and biblical citizenship out.
Yeah, man, we've made our courses free for years and years. So anybody can sign up for our classes. They can sign up for free at our website, patriotacademy.com, and download the videos. They can play them for a group if they invite them into their home or online. And then some of our classes are available on YouTube and different places, and then some you have to actually sign up with a class, and because we really prefer you do it with other people rather than just sitting at home by yourself. But we also have our Patriot U, patriotu.com. That's our streaming channel, and we're soon going to be making that available to everybody, not just our partners and our coaches. And so we'll be making more and more of those available. And then we've got our new course, Rebuilding Liberty, which is also available and free to everyone. So absolutely, man, I'd love to see as many people as possible going through those courses. Okay, I think we had Rhonda next. Rhonda's in Iowa. Rhonda, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
I got a question for you. I believe it was Peter ran out of the room or the house on the Last Supper when Jesus said, "One of you will deny me 3 times." He ran out and spit his bread out. And I'm wondering, I didn't understand why he spit his bread out.
Well, you probably have the wrong host for that kind of question. I am not very good at some of the Bible Answer Man type questions. Some I'm great at, but one like that, I got to say, I have no idea. I really don't. Other than of course, if I were convinced that I were Jesus' best disciple, and he had said he was going to build his church on that rock, and then 2 seconds later he's telling me get thee behind me, Satan, and then tells me that I'm going to deny him 3 times. I might spit out whatever I'm chewing on as well. So that's the best I can do for you. But if you got a Constitution question, I can probably do a lot better for you. I apologize, but good question, very good question. I think all of us, though, don't we kind of end up in a situation where we know that we've betrayed the Lord, where we've betrayed what we knew was right, and we literally want to spit out whatever is in our mouth or in our stomach. I mean, our stomach is turned by our own failure to live up to the righteousness that we all want to. Okay, let's go to Larry. Larry's in the great state of Texas. Hook 'em. What a great victory last weekend. Anyway, Larry, go ahead.
Hey, thank you so much. My comment is on the lighting situation that you talked about, that it was a Marxist thing.
Yeah.
I live out in the country, and there was they built some storage places around my property. They put up aluminum all across the front of my property and all this lighting. Now it feels like I live in the middle of Cowboy Stadium. I can't see the stars at night. Where does their right to put up lights and my right to have a peaceful evening?
Yeah. Yeah, it's no different, man, than anything moving in next door to you. What if you have a steel manufacturer that buys the property next to you, and now they're making steel all hours of the night, and it's loud, or different things like that. I mean, there is the gray area is when it actually becomes a nuisance, if they're literally shining the light into your bedroom window, and you can prove a nuisance. I'm with you all the way on that on civil. The problem is, you asked the right question: where is the line between your right as a property owner and their right as a property owner? That's exactly how the question should be asked and the issue approached. Unfortunately, what has happened is nobody does that cost-benefit analysis. Nobody weighs the unintended consequences. Everybody's got good intentions. I want to be able to see the stars, man. I'm the same. Our campus is out in the country, and the students and I are often laying out in the parking lot looking up at the stars at night, and we love that, and we get to enjoy that. So it's not that we don't want things like that. They're good. It's what Thomas Sowell said. There's not a solution. There are only alternatives. There's always a cost-benefit analysis, and progress and electricity and running water and all the things that make our lives so convenient. They come with a cost as well as a benefit. And the more the area grows, the less you get the stars at night are big and bright like we get in rural Texas. And it's just a part of life. And there's not when we go to government to try to prevent those things from happening, the unintended consequences of the good intentions become far worse. And what I mean by that is you take, for instance, this dark sky ordinance and these ridiculous regulations. And if you could have seen the slides that this dude was showing today about how the lights should work in your driveway and in the parking lots in order to prevent anybody from having anything other than a dark sky. It is a recipe for crime and for muggings and raping and all of those things that happen in those dark parking lots whenever we're fools like that. And so the good intentions to have the dark skies, great, that's good, I'm with you. But the unintended consequences when you use government to force that on people, it's the same as these acreage minimums where in my home county they're now requiring 10 acres to be able to subdivide your piece of Texas so that your kids can have a piece of Texas and build a house. And, there's nothing scientific about that. It's an arbitrary number in order to stop growth and keep people from moving in. It's this mindset that I got my little piece of heaven, I don't want anybody else moving in, which is great. If you want to buy the land next door, then nobody can move in. But it's not our it's not you don't have free property when we're able to tell the neighbor what they can do with their land. Back to your original question, 100%. There is a point at which it becomes a nuisance, and you should have a civil lawsuit if they are, like literally shining a spotlight into your window. But I think at some point we have to say, people are going to expand and grow, and businesses are going to go in, and neighborhoods are going to go in, and that's all part of progress. This guy today, he was literally choosing. He would have rather been in Africa. He showed the map and showed how dark some of these countries in Africa are at night and how much that's somehow better. Really? You want the disease and no running water and electricity? I mean, I use the same slides for showing the evil of communism in North Korea versus the freedom and prosperity of a constitutional republic and a free enterprise system in South Korea. And I show the lights at night as a positive. It's like, this is a good thing. This means that people have jobs. This means that people have homes with air conditioning. And anyway, so everything's a trade-off. There's pros and cons to everything, and there are unintended consequences to the good intentions. And so the real answer to your question, Larry, is who decides? Who answers the question that you pose? In other words, who decides how much you can do with your property? And the answer to that should be you until you damage your neighbor, and then you have to have laws that define what that damage is. And my argument is that we have gone so far on the side of trying to prevent any damage from ever happening or any inconvenience from ever happening to anyone that we've taken away the very essence of what made having private property worth spending the money and the toil and the saving all your life and having something to pass down. All the pluses, all the reasons we love freedom and free property and free enterprise get taken away. And we literally kill the American dream with all these regulations that prevent people from being able to open their business or to build the home for their mother-in-law or their sister or whatever it might be. So in all of these situations, the question is, who decides? And the answer, most of the time, should be the owner of the property. Sometimes it should be the government. There are times when it's a proper function for government. I do not believe that how well we can see the stars is a proper function of government. I don't think they should be the ones deciding how much light you can have on your property, because guess what? It doesn't work anyway. All of this stuff that they do that ends up costing millions and millions of dollars in compliance and engineers and plans and approval and the right kind of light bulbs supposedly, and then the crime that's available, all of the bad stuff, all of that stuff doesn't make much of a difference at all. Maybe in some of these unique situations a little bit of a difference, but again, is it worth it? Is the trade-off worth it? And I don't think government should be the one to decide that. I think we should decide that with our own property. So anyway, that's my rant on who should, where the line should be drawn. I totally understand. I want stars at night to be big and bright as well. I just don't think that's something government can guarantee. It's kind of like healthcare. It's the same thing. Everybody's running to government to solve their health problems and thinking that some expert at the government level is going to make our health better. Never happens. Never works. Only makes it worse every single time, which is why government shouldn't be in the business of healthcare. It's the old Yellow Pages test. If people are in business in the Yellow Pages, government shouldn't be doing it. So if you have people offering health care, which is what you really want, not health insurance, But if you have people offering health care in the private marketplace and you have people offering health insurance in the private marketplace, government should not be involved in it, which is why in the Constitution it's not involved. There's nothing in the United States Constitution giving any authority whatsoever for the government to have anything to do with health care. That is your life. That is you. The answer to who decides is you. You decide whether or not to inject your body with an experimental drug. You decide whether or not to keep injecting your body with too much sugar and fats and all those kind of things. And you decide whether or not to exercise and stretch and do the things that would make your body last longer. It's up to you. It's up to me. And then when we don't make good decisions over time, we end up having to experience the disease that comes with that. And then we expect government to bail us out and our neighbors to pay for our health care. And I realize somebody's probably going to call in with this, but I realize all disease is not created and caused by our decisions. There are diseases that obviously happen to people, or accidents that happen to people that wasn't their own fault and wasn't something that they built up to and made a bunch of bad decisions to get there, which is also why I do believe in a safety net, but it's not a government safety net. What do 90% of the hospitals you drive by, what do they say on the building? Some sort of saint this or saint that, or church of this or church of that. It's the churches that made that possible. It's the churches and philanthropy and individuals that created situations where we could take care of those in need and take care of those who could not take care of themselves. And government can have a safety net that is a really low safety net, but if government's providing it, it should be a lower quality than what the private market can pay for. There is no reason, as soon as you have government providing the best of the best, you will no longer get the best of the best. It will now become the worst of the worst for everyone. Socialism always does that. It does make everybody equal. So if you want everybody to be equally miserable, you should absolutely support socialism. And I know this wasn't the guy's question, but it's the same philosophy. It's all about trying to have government save us and protect us from ourselves and protect us from these things that are not life-threatening. They are not, taking away our livelihood, or now you could say maybe it's taking away your pursuit of happiness, because if your pursuit of happiness is watching the stars at night, well, I get that, but then you might have to move to Montana, or you might have to move way out to West Texas, and you can buy. I mean, our place in Dripping Springs, we could see the stars great, and everything grew up all around us, and now we can't. That's not government's job to prevent that from happening. That's life. That is what happens in life. And what are we doing? We moved. So, it's the same with water. We get all these people that are like, we can't do this, we can't allow that because we're going to run out of water here. Government doesn't create water. Private entities come together and sometimes they, use government funds, which I'm not for, but sometimes you got to, or sometimes they do, in order to create companies that can then, pipe in water from lakes and all that kind of stuff. That's the free market at work. And you're going to have areas that grow too fast and run into water issues, or run into traffic issues, or run into it's been that way forever. And these policies that people think are going to prevent any problems from happening are good intentions that lead to unintended consequences. So you should always err on the side of freedom. Always err on the side of letting the market figure it out, not some government bureaucrat expert, Pope Fauci type person that's going to end up abusing the power and the money that we give them. Every time, folks, it's going to happen that way. It's a principle of nature. Government will never be as interested in making sure that your property works well and is well maintained as you are. So you should be the one making the decision about your property. Government is never going to care as much about your health as you and your loved ones. Therefore, government should not decide your healthcare decisions for you. You should make those decisions. These are just basic things that the founders understood in America. They were basic principles that Locke and Montesquieu and Blackstone and others had made so clear, Reverend John Wise and the Bible. And so the founders understood all this, and that's why they created America, was to try that experiment, the experiment being that the answer to who decides should most often be you. In rare circumstances, should be government. And it worked, and it created the greatest nation in the history of mankind. And now we've allowed our safetyism to chip away at that. And I'm on a mission to destroy safetyism and return freedom and prosperity and respect for your neighbor, not control of your neighbor. All right, quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to At the Core with Walker Wildmon and Rick Green.
As we watch world events unfold and fulfill Scripture, it's hard to believe anyone could doubt God and His Word are real, and yet there are so many who either question or completely refuse to believe it. The God Who Speaks is a 90-minute documentary that hits the doubt head-on with evidence that proves God is real and His Word is the ultimate authority. Watch it anytime and invite others to watch with you. Just visit stream.afa.net. That's stream.afa.net.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
This is Walker Wildmon with AFR, and we're sending Bibles. Here's Michael with Bible League International.
Walker, the Zalika refugee camp in Malawi, Africa. It's a place of total chaos. There's 60,000 women, men, and children packed into a camp designed only for 10,000. There's poor sanitation, violence among people groups that hate each other, even murders. But enter the hope of the gospel, where 50 Bible studies have led to 1,000 people coming to Christ in recent months, and there's a sense of calmness and order coming to parts of that camp. One of these new believers, Miriam, is a widow praying for a Bible to lead her children to know and love Jesus. And that's why AFR and Bible League want to fill the empty waiting hands of 4,000 Bibleless believers around the world this fall. And today, every gift will be doubled, Walker.
$5 sends one Bible. Yes, that's $5 for one Bible. $100 sends 20, and $500 sends 100 Bibles. Give generously at 800-YES-WORD, 800-YES-WORD, or visit sendbiblesnow.org. Sendbiblesnow.org.
Ever hear the phrase, "Don't say you've never been warned"? In a day where false alarms, exaggerated warnings, and intentional scare tactics are used by a deceptive culture, it's sometimes difficult to separate true warnings from deceptive false alarms. So how do you know? Hello, I'm Sam Rohr with another Stand in the Gap Minute. When God warns, it's real, and we'd better sit up and take notice. In the Bible, the word woe, or warning, is used 98 times. The Old Testament prophets used it. Christ used it many times himself. It occurs in the book of Revelation in final judgment. In nearly every case where a woe is given, the warning of judgment is certain and God's punishment imminent. Noah of old warned the people for 100 years of a coming flood. They heard, they considered, they rejected, they died. God gives us warnings so that we might live. While full of mercy, God's justice will always prevail. May we hear and live. Join with us to communicate God's truth at standinthegapmedia.org.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Rick Green.
Welcome back to At the Core with Walker Wildmon and Rick Green. I'm Rick Green, America's Constitution coach, and my job here is to make everyone that's ever had something annoying move in next door to them upset. That's what I'm trying to do. Not really. That's not really my goal. I get it. I understand. I've had things move in next door to me that, they were a nuisance. I didn't like it. But, it's like my wife's grandfather taught me 30 years ago. If you don't like what I'm doing with my property, buy it. Okay, by the way, this is, we're doing Operation Christmas Child. So now through November 24th, so we got, about a month left, 5 weeks maybe, sending the good news of Jesus Christ to children around the world through a simple shoebox. Now, most everybody listening to this program, you've probably seen the shoeboxes at some point over the last couple of decades. This is an amazing ministry. Every shoebox gift is an opportunity to share about Jesus Christ and God's love, and it blesses an entire family. This is a way that we can all be a part of it, so you can have a direct impact on a child's life and their family, a direct way for you to equip the local churches so that they can then impact those families, and then those families are drawn to that local church, which is another benefit from it. Operation Christmas Child, it's a way to work with our local ministry partners around the world. Simply a shoebox gift. It reaches out in their communities and establishes those long-term relationships. And a lot of times these are in tough areas, unreached people groups. These gift boxes basically open the door. I mean, who doesn't pay attention? If somebody shows up with a gift box for you, you tend to pay attention and you're willing to listen. And it's a great way to start. So it really does open the door for evangelism and discipleship. And we see tremendous results from this. Operation Christmas Child this year, though, our goal is 12.6 million children will be reached with the gospel. 12.6 million children will be reached with the gospel through a simple shoebox gift. And we get to be a part of it here at American Family Radio. You get to be a part of it as one of our listeners. So you can go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. SamaritansPurse.org/OCC for Operation Christmas Child. Any standard shoebox will do, or you can order pre-printed shoeboxes and support materials for your church or your family. And I'm telling you, it's a cool thing to do. If you're homeschooling, this is a great project for you to do with all of your kids. If you're in a co-op or your Sunday school class or your church group, it's a great opportunity to be a part of this. And you can do something cool with like a stuffed animal, something that they'll really enjoy. You can do a soccer ball with a pump. You can do some sort of clothing, anything that'll capture their attention with some fun toys, but also personal care items, school supplies, that sort of stuff. And Samaritan's Purse will take care of the rest. So SamaritansPurse.org/OCC, SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. Be a part of it and find out where the drop-off locations are right there close to you. Okay, let's get back to the phones. I believe we've got John in Kansas. We are in Kansas. John, go for it, man. Your comment, question, insult, all yours.
Yes, on property rights here, the subject of the day, apparently.
Yes, sir.
The basic question should be on new laws or any law, what evil does this law attempt to defer by government punishing the property owner?
John, that is perfect. Have you been to Patriot Academy?
No, but I'm a kind of an analytical thinker, and I follow
I
a
love
lot
it.
of things.
I love it. You just said almost verbatim what I teach the Patriot Academy students in every leadership congress when they come in and they're going to be a legislator for the week and they're going to file their bills and debate their bills. That's exactly what I tell them when they're standing up there explaining their bill. I say, here's what you should be explaining. What is the evil that you are trying to deter? I love it. You're spot on, John. Go ahead. Did I lose you?
A child says, oh, I need this, and I need that, and I need that.
Yeah.
No, they want it.
That's right.
So the only thing the government should meddle in is things that are needed.
That's right.
Like safety and health.
John, would you run for office?
That's not quite my job. I'm more of a staff person, I guess.
I love it. Well, thank you for your call. You're spot on. That is exactly the right thing to ask. We if we lose the principles, the plumb line, it's easy to get off into things that have the unintended consequences. But if you have a plumb line, if you have something to measure things against, if you have a set of principles and ideas that are not changing. In other words, we call them the timeless principles of liberty. They don't change, and they're true in any circumstance. If you have those to guide you, you can avoid a lot of this stuff. And that's why we teach the kids. Ask these fundamental questions. Number one, before you even read a bill, get yourself in the mindset of, is this issue within my domain, within my jurisdiction? If I'm a state rep or I'm a congressman or I'm a county commissioner and an idea is brought to me, the first question should be, do I have authority? Is this within the jurisdiction that I've been given by the people to govern? So, for instance, if you're a federal congressman, if you're in Washington, D.C., you're a United States congressman under the Constitution, and a constituent comes to you or another congressman brings a bill that says, let's just pick something that says, we really think that that we need to have a requirement that every student in America has to read the entire Bible in 1 year. Okay. Well, I would love for every student in America to read the entire Bible every year. I think that's a great practice. I think that's what I try to do. It's what the Founding Fathers did. It's what we teach people at Patriot Academy to do. That's a wonderful idea. All right, I'm a congressman. I'm sitting there in Washington, D.C. as a congressman, Somebody else brings this bill. They're really on fire for getting students to learn the principles of liberty, to be better citizens, and do all this stuff. And if I ask the question, do I have authority to require every school in America and every child in America to read through the Bible every year, I would have to say no. No, that is not in my responsibility as a congressman. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that the federal government should dictate how education is going to work. That is a state issue, a local issue, and most importantly, a parental issue. And so even though it's a good thing and would no doubt, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, it would cause our culture to do better. It would cause our society to do better. Now, if we want to pass a constitutional amendment that actually says in America all education systems must include the Bible and must include a reading through the Bible every year, I would vote for that constitutional amendment, because I would be now creating a requirement along with a vast majority of the country for this particular nation and this society that we live in, and we would be choosing together with a significant majority to require that, and we would be deciding what the power and authority of the federal government or state government or whatever it would be. But first you have to ask the question, do I have authority? So that's an example. And then you say, okay, if it's within my domain, now I can ask, what's the evil that's trying to be prevented here? In other words, is it a good idea to do this now? And what is the thing that we're trying to stop from happening? And then you get into the semantics of, okay, what's the best way to do it? So that's kind of the matrix, if you will, the decision matrix that we teach at Patriot Academy as students are analyzing legislation. Okay, let's go back to the phones. How about Tara in Indiana? Tara, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. I live in a small farm community, and with all the property right questions, I thought that this might interest you. We have, around like 33 or 34,000 acres of farmland going into solar.
Yeah.
And so we have had 84 UDO changes to accommodate for solar. And the last election, we did get a commissioner.
What's a UDO, real quick?
Listening.
Help me out, Tara. What's a UDO?
It's an ordinance. It's
Okay.
an ordinance
Okay,
set in
gotcha.
place to help protect the property owners from, commercial businesses or whatever coming in. Because we're a farm community, so there's like pig farms and stuff like that.
Yeah, so
So
UDO
originally
is
they were
just
made-
a local ordinance. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so 84 of them were changed to accommodate for solar. They will not put a cap on how many acres of solar could go into our community, which leaves the door open for more companies to come in and more ground be put in. There are some landowners who are landlocked by these things, like it is surrounding all three sides of their property and across the road from them. And like I was saying, we have one commissioner in who listens to the people, but then the other two, obviously, and what do you do when you're in a situation where the people are speaking? A lot are showing up to meetings. Sometimes we get public comment. Sometimes they work it out so that there's another meeting right after and there can be no public comment. But what do you do when you feel like you're fighting a losing battle against your own local government?
Yeah. Great question, Tara, and not something that is going to go away quickly. We're going to be struggling with a lot of these very same questions. We're fighting in our county right now the issue of these battery plants, very similar to what you're dealing with the solar power. And, we've got this all over Texas where they're putting in these huge battery storage facilities, and there's, definite concerns about, what it does to the water supply and what happens when they melt down and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be grappling with a lot of these things. AI technology is going to become something that we have to really, figure out. Okay, is this crossing the line to something we've got to regulate and that sort of thing? Here's what I would say first. Almost every one of these scenarios I just mentioned and your specific scenario would not exist right now if government had stayed in its lane. All of these windmills, all of these solar plants, all of these battery deals, all of it subsidized by government, created by government out of this, bogus, most often hoax science dealing with climate control and climate change and whatever name they're going to come up with next, since global warming became obviously not a good name since it was starting to get cooled. My point is, it's what Milton Friedman called friction in the market. When government starts subsidizing these things and pushing these agendas, it creates a false market for it, so that it changes the cost-benefit analysis, and people are willing to sell their farms to put it in because they're being paid by government funds and other means to put it in. And so it creates a scenario that I would argue probably would not exist if it wasn't for all of that government intrusion into the market. Unfortunately,